I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast. This is a show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. And today I'm joined by Miss Deborah Susan Charman. She is a certified healthcare aide, a certified suicide first aid, published author, and philanthropist, as well as a teen suicide attempt survivor. The oldest of three, she was raised in a very rural farming area of Pennsylvania by extremely abusive parents. Deborah survived all dimensions of abuse, meaning emotional, physical, and spiritual. You can read her story and how she was determined to overcome the handicaps her parents created that repeatedly blocked her from a successful marriage, and well-deserved promotions in the working world. The book is available on Amazon if you type in the full title, Spots on a Leopard, EMDR Saved My Life. So I would like to welcome Miss Deborah to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us and having the opportunity to share your story today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Noah.
So if you could just do a little introduction about who you are and what you do.
Well, as you have just mentioned, I did survive a great deal of abuse as a child. I therefore had therapy from age 19 on until 62. I was 62 years old when EMDR provided the healing, the deep healing that I needed to be able to live a very true and a true life, and to be the same on the outside as I was on the inside, because I had to hide so much pain. And also, too, when you're hiding that much pain, you had difficulty relating to reality quite often. And we tend to live in our heads. So I created this fantasy world in my head where everybody liked me and I had lots and lots of friends. And yeah, so I isolated and I was alone a lot. And while I still appreciate my solitude for reflection and still maintain a level of growth emotionally, as we should all through our lives, it is just so wonderful to be relieved of the baggage that created. And talking about the name of your podcast being Lethal Venom, the truth does hurt. And that my truth really, really hurt. And that's what took so long to be able to actually deal with it. And it was due to a suicide attempt that failed that I finally got to talk to a fantastic psychiatrist. Now, that was when I was 19, and he was the one that set me on the path of healing. And in those days, everything has changed, especially since 1972. But we have such fantastic therapies available to us today. And EMDR just happens to be the one that healed me. And it's been 10 years since that event. And I continue to grow and live a very happy, fulfilling life.
So you focus on saving teens' lives, seems to be a notable cause, yet What is the biggest challenge in doing that?
The biggest challenge in working with teen suicide prevention is getting the parents to acknowledge that they actually need to talk to their teens about it. Just the way we as parents, and I have a daughter, we taught our children how to cross the street safely. We didn't wait until they got hit by a car. We didn't wait until they were running out in the street and we had to grab them back. We taught them, and this is exactly what we have developed. It's a program that opens the conversation between parents and teens. It's a matter of fact. It's a 5 stages of intellectual development. So it's all based on education and thinking and making good choices. And it's an easy thing for parents and students to discuss. And we focus primarily on people the ages 8 to 13, especially because puberty is when all of the emotions and everything comes in on a person. And so this is the time, just as you taught your child to cross the street when they were walking, right, and capable of understanding the instructions. So this is the same thing. And it's a very common sense approach. It's a very lighthearted approach. And it's made specifically to improve communications between parents and their children.
I wish these sources were available for me when I got depression. I got diagnosed with depression when I was 13. So I was very young when I first got diagnosed with it, and we didn't really have a lot of resources. If I didn't have my mom, I don't know where I would have been today. She's been such a huge inspiration and been such a huge support system for me, and she helped me during that time so much. So I appreciate you wanting to help kids because you know, th- unfortunately, there are kids at 8 years old that get depression. It's so sad that at such a young age, but it can happen. And, some people are lucky enough not to have it.
Yes,
But I appreciate you so much for doing the help for these kids and young teens that probably are not didn't have I bet, and parents are probably happy as well that they have a resource so that they can able to follow back on it. So I think appreciate you so much for that hard work.
thank
Um,
you.
why do you call yourselves survivors of hopelessness rather than create a more positive title focused on hope?
Well, we have so many resources out there that focus on hope, and we never talk about hopelessness, which is the actual culprit that pushes an individual that last few millimeters into the distasteful activity of attempting to take their own life. And unfortunately, some are successful at doing that. And we don't like to use the word successful because successful is a positive word. So we say they were completely overcome by hopelessness when they have actually taken their own life, which is gut wrenching and heart wrenching. And I will say this, if I may just finish this little segment with every parent I've ever talked to, except one, said they never saw it coming. They never saw it coming. And you want to know why? Because their child was the football star, the cheerleader captain, the winner of the school drama award. These are the students that you are least likely to expect would be considering dark thoughts. And the reason they're doing that is because they're suffering most likely from what's known as imposter syndrome. And that is because when we're in high school and junior high school, everything happens around us. We have teachers and parents, and you're being voted into the student council, and you're being elected to be on the football team and the basketball team, and you're being rallied, and you've got tons of friends. And these are the ones I'm talking about. The students that are already isolating, that are demonstrating depression, yes, they need help. But what they need is called intervention. Now, that's the difference. will tell them the same information. But now we're talking at a level where we know that these thoughts are going on. Whereas when we approach the students that are so successful and they never look as if they would be thinking these things, we're approaching them from pure prevention. It's like giving them a shot of flu, your flu shot that you get every year. You don't take that if you already have the flu, right? You can't take the flu shot if you have the flu. So our program is called Pure Prevention because we are coming in and talking to people who on the surface you would never know. And anybody that would have seen me the day I tried would have never known that I was about to do that.
That was very well explained. It is true that a lot of students try to attempt stuff, and it's like you said, they're the star of the school. They have all the attention around them, that all the people flock to them, but in actuality, they're struggling.
Yes.
And and then their popularity kind of overshadows the truth that's within them.
Yes.
And we did have kids that were in my school as well that were depressed, and we wouldn't have been as surprised if they had taken their life. But then if we had someone that had all straight A's, was on every club, got every
Yep.
award and everything, those would be the ones that would be a huge shock to everyone. And so
Yes.
that was very well explained. Um, you titled your book, Spots on a Leopard, EMDR Saved My Life. Was that book difficult to write?
Actually, no, it was part of my healing. I had written that book several times previously in my life and burned it, thinking that that would help heal me. I was just so desperate to get rid of the pain. And I had, by that time, decided suicide was not the answer. So when I walked into my therapist's office one day, I had done my homework because she always gave me homework. And that homework really made it clear to me how messed up I really was. And that's what happens. And that's where your title, Lethal Venom, the truth hurt. It was very painful to look at that. But the way she worked with me is she allowed me to do that when I was on my own and rather than in the actual therapy session. She was amazing. Anyway, this is how the EMDR works. And I walked in that day and I said to her, are we trying to change spots on a leopard here? Is there hope for me? I mean, maybe I am a leopard. Maybe this is just who I am and there's no fixing this. And she said, and I quote, Deborah, those spots were never yours to begin with. Your parents projected them onto you, and we are going to remove them one at a time. The elation that I felt at that moment, the hope that I finally had, because when I walked in her door, I was hopeless. I was hopeless at that moment. And what she said to me renewed the hope. And that's why I realized, and later on, and especially talking with my partner, Brian, who has an amazing survival story. I knew then that that was exactly what's pushing people over the edge. And I wanted to go after it. And I wanted to save our next generation.
You said that a doctor that treated you after your last attempt saved your life. Why do you say that after citing EMDR as your ultimate savior?
Oh, because between age 19, which is when I had attempted suicide for the last time, and I almost didn't make it. They didn't know if I was going to wake up. And when I woke up, I was determined that I was going to get out of there and do it right. And that doctor set my feet on the ground with how he demonstrated to me that my parents were not right in what they did to me and how they treated me. He validated that and he gave me a right to live on. And Noah, from that day on, and that was age 19 until 62, I was in and out of therapy Oh, every 2, 3 years, maybe I would take a month or two of weekly therapy sessions because it would come back. And often it's like an onion, you've got all sorts of stuff you have to work through. And I did. I worked through some surface things each of those times. But EMDR went deeper. EMDR went to the source of where all this was coming from. When I was going to the other therapies, Noah, I was peeling off the existing problems that had occurred due to the deeper issues. So I fixed the surface issues with those therapies and went on for another year or two until I had another issue that I had to deal with. EMDR healed the core, the root of why my behavior was ruining my marriages, ruining my work relationships, ruining my life.
If you could go back to your 19-year-old self and give that 19-year-old self advice of what you've learned now, what would you say to her?
I would have her take the program that we have available right now, which is the 5 stages of intellectual development, because that is basically what that doctor that day taught me. He taught me that, but not in the format and the constructed framework that I ended up putting it down on paper. And I had to reverse engineer it. I had to go back over what he told me and write it down and see where it fit and how it worked in life itself. And so those 5 stages, when you understand the world and you understand life cycles and you understand that there's ups and downs and you're going to feel awful some days. And this demonstrates and teaches you how to step back from the worst day of your life and recognize it's just a 24-hour period in a long, long time frame, a long timeline, I should say. And it just helps to maintain and keep your feet on the ground so that your head, your thoughts, your reasoning stays in control when emotions are out of control.
So kind of going further on talking about the 5 stages of intellectual development, where did it come from and what exactly is it?
I just explained it. It came from the therapy that I received at age 19. And over the years, I did a lot of self-help work and a lot of self-help books. And I worked in sales, so I did a lot of sales training and communication. So taking bits and pieces of all of that, I put together this framework and did it in a manner that's simplistic. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science or algebra. It's just simply understanding the cycles of life, feelings, when your feelings are down, to how to examine them, how to put them in the framework of your life, and accept them as part of your life. Okay, I'm feeling this way today. Everybody hates me. People are saying horrible things about me online, on social media. This is the most embarrassing day of my life. But who can I talk to about that? Right? And that's basically what that teaches. It teaches you to step back, put it in proper perspective, and don't swallow it. Don't just deal with it alone. And it encourages, and if parents have this tool as well, it allows the student to more easily go to their parent to talk about these issues.
So when someone does get your program, it comes with an instructional video and workbook. And what can people expect when they do the program?
Well, what my recommendation is that the parent should look at the video and watch the video first, all the way through. With the workbook, looking at the workbook, there is an adult version of the workbook and a student version. And there's plenty of room on the pages for notes and drawings or whatever people want to do with it. The back side of every page is blank. So it's easy to work with. And the idea is to get the student especially handling the information, physically feeling it, touching it, using more senses than just listening or looking. And what they can expect is sometimes a big surprise. If I may, I will relate. I most recently received an email from a mother who said she was floored to hear that her son, 14 years old, had a best friend who had attempted suicide for the fourth time. The fourth time. And she said, I had no idea that he was that close to the issue. She said, no, he never mentioned it to her. He's not going to discuss that with his mom. That's between him and his friend, right? So this demonstrates as well that a student that takes this program will be in a position to help their friends. They're boots on the ground. They are right there on the front lines of hopelessness, trying to seep in to our next generation. So she wrote a raving review about the program and how the conversation was opened up. They've had a full discussion. She knows exactly how her son viewed this friend who was attempting this. And it was just so refreshing to hear that her surprise was not the kind of surprise we don't want parents to experience.
It might be too personal, but is there a success story that you can share with my listeners for someone that has done the program?
Well, that lady that just sent me that email is probably my biggest success story right now with the program. But if you want to hear a success story, my partner, Brian, who's here with me today, his story of how he thought about it. I mean, when I tried suicide, I decided and I did it. And that's 99% of the time, that's what people do. But not Brian. Brian was extremely determined, and he is a success story within himself. And he can tell you how he appreciates our program. If you wouldn't mind letting him have a chance to express that.
Yeah. For people that are just listening, I have she's brought a guest on with her, Brian Wardale. He is a success story that has someone that's done the program. So Brian, if you want to share your story, you are more than welcome to share your experience in the program and how it's helped you get out of your suicide attempt.
Well, a minor correction. I worked with Deb, and met Deb and started working with her on small refinements to the program after my suicide attempt nearly ended my life. Um, so I brought a different perspective, a little more, slightly more recent perspective to our work. But unfortunately, I was not I can't say that I am a user of the program. Well, that's actually not exactly right because I do apply that perspective now. But yeah, my story is a little different, and it began before I met Deborah, and that was in 2019. I attempted suicide by jumping off a bridge over a highway. Um, I felt like I had nothing left to offer the world. I have had problems with anxiety and depression as long as I can remember too. So you talking about being diagnosed at 13, was it, Noah? I feel that. Um, yeah, and being a caregiver for my mom filled that void, of what's my purpose? What value do I give to the world? But she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, sadly, and admitted to hospital. And yeah, I felt like that purpose that I clung on to so desperately was torn away from me. And so yeah, I went into a tailspin. And then December 3rd of 2019, I got up one morning feeling particularly low, and was struggling to conceive of any kind of future that I would want to be a part of. And all I could imagine was being a burden on those that I love, and they would resent me for it, which would make me miserable. And so, yeah, over the course of 2 hours sitting there over uh, a sandwich and coffee, I decided that, yep, the best course of action under this situation, the best course of action available to me was to end my own life. And now I'm in Canada. We don't have, or at least I didn't have access to firearms. So my method of choice was, yeah, to try jumping off of a train bridge about 10 minutes or so walk away from my house. So yeah, I got myself dressed and I walked out into that very brisk Canadian December air. And yeah, I walked 10 minutes or so, sort of head down, trying to avoid making eye contact with anybody. See, I was afraid that if somebody looked into my eyes, they'd see how troubled I was, and they would try to intervene, and they would stop me, and I would lose my resolve. I thought what I was doing was necessary. That ultimately it was a merciful thing for myself and for other people. Nobody really wanted to help me deal with my issues. Everybody's got their own problems. That was my thinking. And so, yeah, I walked to that train bridge. I got there. I sent a quick text to four of the closest people to me, just letting them know what I was doing, and in brief why. I thought, yeah, this will be painful in the short term, but after a little while, you won't even miss me. And climbed up on the side of the bridge and pitched myself over. I landed on hard, frozen ground. And I guess there were some people nearby that saw me go over, and so they called the ambulance immediately. And I was pretty broken up, both femurs broken very badly, broken right arm, broken humerus. I know this is audio only, but Noah, you can see a big scar along my elbow there. I've had two surgeries. I survived, but I wasn't happy about it right away. I was sort of mixed emotions. It wasn't until a number of days later, after my friends and family really gathered around me, my two brothers, with whom I had never been close. We're very different people. They didn't understand why I wasn't motivated and ambitious like they were. Um, they didn't get it, but they circled around me, stuck like glue. Friends came and told me, you know, they told me about times that I made a big difference in their lives, um, which, I mean, I barely remembered these anecdotes that they were relating, but they said, "Oh, I never stopped thinking about that." What? And that's when I realized my brain had been lying to me this whole time, that I'm not meaningless adrift in this world. I have value. It's important. And that's when my thinking turned around. No, I want to live. Yeah, so things are much better. It was in January then, so the month after, that I met Deborah. We talked. We decided, she asked me if I would join this program to help, let my, as we say, let our experience be your best teacher, because hindsight, as they say, is 2020. Well, or let us help that. We've been there, and Deborah's program, the 5 stages of intellectual development, is fantastic. I have adopted that into my thinking and my perception now, and the two of us have sort of refined the program uh, to provide that perspective, provide that roadmap, provide that framework. This is where you're going to have challenges. This is how you can get past them. And when you do, this is where you'll achieve success. So it's a very robust program. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
That's such a very, very meaningful story. I appreciate you so much for sharing that with my audience about that. I'm glad you're here today. It kind of just shows you
Thank you, Noah.
how much you want to be here today. It shows you that you're here for a reason. And I know people get tired of hearing me talk about it, but I'm never going to shut up about it because it's stories like this that need to be told. So if y'all can hear me gripe and complain about how I got a splinter in my finger that day, y'all just shut up and listen to me, okay? So I appreciate you so, so much for telling me that story. I was like getting emotional. I was like, word of advice, keep tissues on my desk. I was on a podcast yesterday and they about made me cry as well. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna have to add tissues to my desk. I didn't have an
Yeah.
emergency supply. Um, to Deborah, on your website you have a song titled "Wait One More Day." What's the meaning behind that song for you?
When I was struggling towards the end, I was in my mid to late 50s, and the pressure, the hopelessness was pushing me so hard to take my own life because my daughter was grown and gone. I didn't see a whole lot of purpose for my life. I didn't feel very effective. Work, of course, was difficult at that time of life because I was just getting too old for it. And reason I say that is I'll back up there. Healthcare aid here in Canada means that you are working with elderly quite often, and so there's a lot of lifting and a lot of bending and a lot of physical demands that were difficult for me as I got older because I had been in sales and spent so much time on the phone, in my car, go from my car to the client, back to the car. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of sitting in my life. And so when I had to get up and go, and I changed careers at age 62. When I was healed, I went and got my HCA certificate and I changed careers. I came out of sales and I started working as a healthcare aide. And so I was just feeling pushed and pushed, and my heart would break when I was working with some of these people. The stuff I was seeing going on, the elderly, that's a whole nother podcast, what's going on with the elderly. But what I did in those days to survive, and this is before my EMDR therapy, when I felt the worst pushing, and it would keep me up at night. So I would be spinning, my head would be spinning, my emotions would be going. I'd be trying to resist not taking my own life. So what I did is I took a piece of paper and I wrote everything down. I wrote down what I was feeling. I wrote down how I was going to do it. I wrote all my goodbye letters and I put them all into their own envelope and then into a great big 9 by 12 envelope and put it on my table. And I said, God, if I feel this bad tomorrow morning, you have to forgive me for taking the steps that I wrote down in this envelope because you were there. You saw it all. You saw how I was treated. You saw how I was raised. You saw how I constantly get robbed and cheated in the world because I'm naive. So I said, you have to forgive me. Well, unbeknownst to me then, that allowed me to sleep, because this emotional circus that you go through, it's a cycle. You get upset, you can't sleep. You can't sleep, so you're overtired. And that makes your being upset more magnified. So it perpetuates itself. By getting a good night's sleep, I was breaking that cycle. So I would wake up in the morning after I wrote everything down, and I feel fine. And I could see how I could continue on, and I could see what good I was doing in the world, and that I did have a place. And so I'd rip it all up and I'd say, I'll never feel that bad again, and toss it. Well, a couple of months later, I'd be right back at it. And that's why I went back into therapy in my late 50s. And by 62, like I said, the EMDR, I couldn't even believe the difference in myself. And what's amazing, and I have to share this too, that doesn't mean that the thoughts are gone. They're still there, because I dug some very strong pathways in my brain by habitually thinking about suicide, you know? So that's going to come back, but it comes way in the background. You can barely even hear it, but it's there. And I just I can laugh at it, you know? The feelings as well, the feelings of anxiety that I get in crowds, that's still there, but it's way in the background. And when I am socializing with people, I'm being authentic. I'm being my authentic self, because I now want to be there where I didn't before. And I was always putting on an act, right? So it has been so freeing. So to answer your question, that was long. My motto at that time was wait one more day. I put the answers, I put the suicide attempt on the table, and I waited one more day. And I said to God, if I feel the same way tomorrow, you have to forgive me. So today, what we say is wait one more day, maybe another. Maybe you get up in the morning and you're not 100%, but you at least can wait one more day again. And that's what that song is about. You have purpose. Wait it out, focus, find it, remember the things that are positive, and you will. And the song, if you watch it, it is a music video. It shows scenes, it shows the different scenes of people living their lives, the life that we all want to live, the joy, the happiness, the friendships, the freedoms. Yeah, especially in the land that we live in, you know. We are so fortunate to live in a place in the world where we have so much choice. You know, stop and think about that. And for us to not notice that and to throw that away, that's very, very disrespectful, you know, of what our opportunities really are.
If you could just say one thing to a suffering teen who wants to reset their path away from suicide, what would you tell them?
Wait one more day. Let's keep you safe today. And let's talk. Talk to me. I've been there. I know those feelings firsthand, face to face with hopelessness. The deepest, darkest hopelessness you can ever imagine. And you can't actually unless you've been there. And only women can understand me when I say it's like childbirth. You do not know childbirth until you've done it. I don't care how many books you read. I don't care how many people you talk to about it until you're there. All right. Now I don't know what would equate to a man for a man where he could say, "Oh, you know, this is something that had to happen before I could ever appreciate it." Maybe it's being a father, and it's a positive thing, you know. But yeah, you will never know the deepest, darkest unless you've actually stood on the edge. But to a teen that is struggling, number one is find someone you can talk to. Whether it's a phone number that you can call, a kid's helpline, whether it's a friend you can trust, an uncle, a cousin, If you can't go to your parents, I could never have gone to my parents about anything. When I did attempt suicide at age 12, I just got a beating for that. Like, what's the point? It didn't help anything. So, yeah, if you can't go to your parents, there is someone in your life you can talk to. And if nothing else, if there isn't anyone at arm's length for you, there is a kids helpline in your area. There's one in every city.
Brian, I'll ask you the same question as well. What would you say to a suffering teen that wants to reset their path away from suicide? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the first thing, wait one more day. And we say that, Deborah and I, talking about making any major life decision, and at any age, because feelings are very powerful, and we don't want to discount them, but feelings can also change very quickly based on circumstance. Uh, I've many times been quite upset about something, and then I had some to eat, and all of a sudden I had a much rosier outlook on the world. But no, to your point, uh, yeah, big thing is find somebody somewhere that you can talk to and get help. Um, Now, I didn't realize how bad off I was before my suicide attempt. And I convinced myself that nobody wanted to hear about my problems. They didn't have, they had enough on their plate themselves. Well, they would much rather help you with your problems now than attend your, they'd rather hear your problems than hear your eulogy. I guess that's a point I would make. No, find people to talk to. And yes, there are, you can search on the internet for kids' help phone, for other crisis lines. Um, Talk to your friends. If you can, if you can't talk to your parents because they're the problem, that's an issue that, needs to be brought up. But don't just assume that people don't want to listen or that they won't understand. Please reach out. You can reach out to Deborah and I at on our website, survivorsofhopelessness.com. There's a link to our first website, which is Let's Render Suicide Extinct. Now, we had to set up Survivors of Hopelessness as a landing page because in Canada, you cannot use the word suicide in marketing, even if it's, you know, good people against suicide. No, can't use it. Um, so, but you can follow that link back to our first website. Our first website has links, email, contact us section, rather. And there are emails for Deborah and I. So, our music video says, "Reach out to us. I'll be your brother." That's that's an offer. That's not just a throwaway line in a song. But yes, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell your parents, and and reach out to us.
Well, I thank y'all both so much for appearing on today and sharing your story with me. Um, Deborah, if you wanted to plug any some of your social media as well, Brian did mention the website. And Brian, you can also mention if you have social media as well. But if you either of you want to plug some additional social media platforms, feel free to.
Oh, thank you. I would rather people go to the website. I am on LinkedIn. If you look up, I think if you put in your search for Deborah Charman, it would come up. I'm also on Facebook under the same. My pen name for my book is Deborah Susan, and that's another story. But rather than the last name, my middle name is Susan. So I go as Deborah Susan for my publications. So yeah,
Nom de plume.
Pardon?
Your nom de plume.
Yes. Yes, I
Very
suppose
fancy.
that is what it is. Yes, indeed. Thank you. And I don't know, Brian, did you want to mention your Facebook or?
Yeah, well, survivorsofhopelessness.com, absolutely, and follow the instructions I gave. Or search out Brian Wardale, BrianWardale, on Facebook. You can search for me on Instagram. Um, I am on Twitter, but I mostly just use that for following baseball Twitter. So, but I mean, that's a possibility too. It's not a very common name, so you should be able to get me. Look for the handsome guy.
They mentioned, survivorsofhopelessness.com. It's there for you to go if you don't have anywhere. I know for the United States, there is a suicide hotline number. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now, but I know that there is a number for people to call that's 24/7 if you need help. Um, and also, if that's not an option for you, feel free to reach out to Brian and Deborah on the website and just reach out for help. I'll put all of their links in the description below so that all their links and website will be in one place. I will also link Deborah's book down there as well for you to check that out if you would like to go read the book and learn some more about it. I wanted to say again, thank you so much to both of you for coming on and sharing your stories. I think they're very impactful, and I hope that my listeners will take something from it. Um, my last advice to people that are dealing with it and have suicide thoughts, you'll really regret it if you try and actually succeed in it. There will be huge regret from it. You don't want to do it. I thought about doing it as well. I never really attempted it, but those thoughts were there. I and I now thank God every day that I am able to be here now and be able to tell my side and have other people like Deborah and Brian to come on and share their story of resilience and braveness. So I appreciate you both for coming on, and just thank you so much for being so strong and being a voice for people that are like me that can look up to you and be able to have huge inspirations from you.
Thank you. Thank you
Oh,
so much for putting this out there to your audience, Brian.
yeah, thank you, Noah. There are very few men, too few, that are willing to, talk about their feelings, express feelings, dig into feelings, and put that out there for public consumption. So much respect to you, and thank you for having us on.
It's funny. I had just gotten done with the interview, and the interview before me said the same thing. That men are so afraid to open up, and I think I open up a little bit too much. Like I could just be crying to my friends and be like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And I'll be like, "I broke my key," and they're like, "Noah, there's bigger issues out there than you breaking your key or you having like a splinter in your finger." They're like, "It's okay, you're fine." So they
Well,
get tired of hearing me
yeah, but
complain. I said, I know, but to me, it's traumatic right now. In this moment, it's traumatic
yeah.
for me.
Yes.
See, that's the thing is you can care about two things at one time. You can care about people starving around the world, and you can care about the splinter in your finger. That doesn't negate one doesn't negate the other.
That's right. And
So
your
I'm totally
feeling,
with you. Splinters are
yes,
horrible.
yes, they are. But I would like to recommend that, those overreactions or those deep, deep reactions like that, such traumatic, it might be something to explore. And have you ever gone to therapy, Noah? May I ask you that?
I have. I started therapy when I was late because I always had the tendency that therapy was for crazy people. That's just how I saw it. That's just
Okay,
how
that's
I
right.
Yeah,
perceived it.
common enough.
Yeah.
And TV and movies do an awful job, a terrible job depicting it. Now, there might be a movie or show out there that I haven't seen that perceives it correctly, but everything I've seen has been totally blue because I've been to psychiatrists as well as therapists, and every time you see a movie, it's here's someone with multicolored hair that's talking to a pet stuffed animal. Here's someone right here that has an imaginary friend. On the other side, there's someone that might be paranoid and be wearing weird clothes and is making all kinds of movements. When in actuality, it's not. In
No.
actuality, it's here's someone dressed in a suit and tie that looks normal. Then here's
Yeah.
someone that's a kid that's 9 years old that's sitting there playing on his iPad. Or then there could be someone on this side of the room that is reading a book about just a magazine about People's Magazine. So it's
Yeah.
media perceives it as, oh, it's all crazy people. No, I've never been to an office where I've had any of those interactions. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but every time you see something on TV and there's always someone in there that looks like that, that's 100% false. It's
Yes.
even normal people surrounding you.
Oh
That's
It's
yeah,
right.
I've seen a lot of like single mothers,
Yes.
with their young kids going to therapy,
Yep.
and I'm sure it's not because they think there's a monster in the closet or whatever. It's they're just trying to hold it together, being a working parent and raising children on their own.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you guys so much, and thank you again just to appear on my show. And I wish y'all nothing but the best of luck and keep doing what you're doing and stay strong.
And same to you,
All
Noah.
right, thank you so much, Noah. You too.
And as I mentioned earlier, I put all their links. I don't know if I had mentioned it earlier, but I will put all their links in the description box below so that it's easy access for you guys. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And as always, feel free to listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcasts from. It's available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's everywhere, so feel free to go check them out and make sure to be subscribed so you be notified of when new episodes come out. Again, thank you to all my listeners for tuning in to today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day, week, and be safe, make good decisions, and I will see you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.